Hello everybody, to introduce myself, my name is Alex and this is Reef Fishes and Whatnot. So today I'm going to be doing an overview of a common piece of equipment found on most aquariums, predominantly on marine aquariums, a reactor. I know it's important that even though this channel will be mostly about reef fishes and the care that comes along with them, it's very important to cover the instrumentation and the equipment that goes along with this hobby, because much of our equipment is responsible for keeping these marine fishes alive. So let's get into it. So a reactor is a very simple piece of equipment. Most products or even DIY versions of reactors are going to be cylindrical in shape due to the efficiency of that shape. The main idea is to push water through a particular kind of media, whether it's activated carbon, GFO, ammonia absorber, or anything of that sort. So here's a little animation that I made that covers how a reactor works. First, water is pushed through the inlet nipple powered by some sort of pump through an inner tube that evenly disperses the water throughout the sides of the reactor. This water then rises up through whatever media you choose, in this case carbon, and runs up through the entire surface of the media. Then it enters through a single hole on the top and leads to an outlet nipple, which then can be dispersed however you may choose. Here I'm going to show you how to assemble a reactor. This is a C-Che model, but most models follow this configuration, so you don't have to worry about that. First off, you want to make sure you rinse every component with RODI water before assembling it, just so everything's cleaned off. Next, you want to decide what kind of media you want to use. So in my case, I'm going to use carbon and GFO, as I show here. You can choose whatever media you want. This reactor is very versatile in what kind of media you choose, and I choose to use a mixture of these two. So first you want to take your inner tube. You can see there's little notches on it. This end goes at the bottom of the reactor, and this is what allows the water to run out evenly. Then you want to take a barrier. This piece is a piece of acrylic that has holes in it. This allows the media to be held up while also allowing water to run through. You want to leave a few inch gap at the bottom between the barrier and the tip just to allow water to run through. Then you want to take a sponge and put it at the bottom, and when you insert it into the reactor, you can see the sponge won't go down with the rest of the components. So I like to take a spare piece of PVC and just push it down, but when you push it down, you don't want to compress it. If you compress it, you're going to allow particulate matter to build up more easily, and that's going to clog your reactor and reduce the efficiency of it. So I'm doing this right now, but this can be done at any point. I'm mixing my media. It's a combination of carbon and GFO. It's a 3-part carbon and 1 part GFO. And when doing this particular kind of mixture, you want to make sure that it's thoroughly mixed. Otherwise, because the GFO is heavier, it'll settle at the bottom. Now, when you add any kind of media to the reactor, you want to cover the middle tube with your finger or some kind of cover. And you want to pour around it and make sure it's dispersed evenly. And you can see I'm tapping it just and shaking it just to make sure everything's thoroughly mixed. And then you want to take your sponge and put it on top, but you don't want to push it against the media right away. This is just to cover it. I like to tap it a few times just to level everything out, and then you can push your sponge down with your PVC down softly, and make sure not to compress it. And again, if you compress it, it's gonna lead to clogging. And then you want to take your second barrier and put it on top of it, and make sure you're not compressing it too tightly, just nice and firm, just so there's no air spaces between it, so none of the media lifts up. And then I have a little O-ring that goes on top of it just to hold this barrier in place. And then depending on what kind of reactor you have, some screw the top on, and mine, just in this case, you put it on, you twist it, and then you take the screws and you screw it down. And if you have this kind of method to screw it on, you want to make sure it's like changing a tire. You do a cross, so you do one screw and then go across the whole circle, unscrew that, and then go around doing that. Otherwise, if you just go in a circular pattern, the O-ring's not going to be evenly compressed and you're going to have leaking. And at this point, you basically have everything assembled. You want to make sure everything's tight And if you have any gaps, make sure you seal those, otherwise you're going to have water leaking, because this is a pressurized piece of equipment. Water is going to be pressurized inside of it. And regardless of what kind of media you're using, it's a very good idea to rinse it before installing your reactor on your tank each time you do it. So in this case, I'm just hooking up an inlet from my RO bin, which has a pump inside of it, so I'm just running water and flushing the whole system. You want to flush at least 2.5 gallons or until the water comes out clear. So you can see how dark the water is inside of the reactor. This is from the carbon and GFO. Both are very dusty if you ever work with them. And you can see how dark the gunk is inside of the pail. And personally, I would rather have this in a bucket where I can dump it out instead of having it in my tank where it's gonna accumulate and grab onto whatever it's designed to and then sit there because you won't be able to remove it. So installation of your reactor is completely on you on where you want it. Some people like it outside of the sump, some people like it inside the sump. It's all completely on different factors such as space and where you prefer it. I prefer putting it in my sump, and this is due to the fact that I rather have stuff working with water inside of the area where it's going to be wet. That way if I have a leakage, I don't want it all over my carpet. You can see I have a little inlet or output coming from my main line. You just want to make sure that you have some sort of pump that you can control running through. If it's too high, you're gonna break down the carbon and GFO too much. Otherwise, it depends on what kind of media you're using, and just make sure you do research on that. And then once you install it, you're basically set to go. And you can look on what kind of media you have to see how long it'll last for. I really hope that you found this video informative and interesting. If so, please leave a like, and if you want to see more content from me, please subscribe. And then if you have any questions concerning this kind of stuff, please feel free to ask me down in the comments below. I hope you have a really good day.